Hi, I wanted to try something. I've been thinking about it and it's been laying on my heart and in my mind, and I decided that maybe the way to reach people is viral. Um, I wanted to try to do a support group or something like that. Maybe some of the knowledge that I have learned through my life will help somebody out through what they're going through. So, first off, let me introduce myself. My name's Crystal Vancil. I live in Kansas. I um, am married to a wonderful husband, and I have 6 children through our blended family, and 3 grandbabies, and one on the way. So, all 6 of my kids are different and unique, and I love each and every one of them. Um, about me, I was raised here in the same area that I live in. I've been here most of my life, and I have experienced several different types of trauma in my life and have learned to um, work through it, I guess, different ways of healing, and got rid of a lot of my hatred that I had on this journey. And in my heart, I feel like I just want to help whoever I can, and maybe the best way to do that is on the internet. So I decided to start this YouTube channel. Hopefully I get followers, um, and hopefully I can help somebody. So share this video and help me reach someone that needs to hear what I have to say. I'm very new at this, so you'll have to forgive me. I will learn as I go. I'm more of a hands-on learner, so hopefully each video will get a little better. And I am watching my granddaughter tonight, so that she's messing with the sticker on the computer. So one of the things that happened to me in my life was I was raped when I was 12 years old. And that story has really traumatized me through most of my life. And I wanted to explain what happened to me and through my life of some of the things that I have went through, in hopes to let people know that they're not alone through the trauma. Some people react differently to trauma, and that's okay. Some pick unhealthy choices, and that's actually okay. It's actually how you feel like you are healing. And when you realize that it's an unhealthy choice, then I just encourage you to try to change that unhealthy choice, because you need to know that you are worth being here. So my story goes, my mom worked with this guy. His name was Ted Phillips. And she worked with him in a bar. And he came to our house one day and asked my mom if he could take me to an auction in a town a few miles east of us. And I didn't know him, not really. My mom worked with him, but I'd only met him a few times, and he had a brother that looked a lot like him. I really thought they were twins. But my mom let me go, and the minute I got into his truck, I can remember a feeling. I had this gut feeling, I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't be here, but I wasn't strong enough to say anything. I can remember we were driving around the dirt roads, and he actually... I don't know. We actually went to a convenience store, and I knew the lady that was working in there. I don't know. And I can remember thinking, I need to tell her I don't want to be here. I need, I want her to call my mom. But I didn't say anything. I got back in his vehicle, And we drove around for hours, and he was trying to encourage me to sit on his lap through the whole ride, trying to tell me that I was old enough to drive, and if, with just a little help, I could drive his truck, and if I'd just sit on his lap. But I kept on telling him no. We were on country roads, and there was a lot of bridges, and at one point he had stopped the truck and tried to entice me to go down underneath a bridge. And I said no, I didn't want to, that I wanted him to go home. But he finally did pull over, and he hurt me at that moment, and I didn't have my voice wasn't being heard, and I didn't have a choice. And when he was done, he gave me $5, and told me that I couldn't tell my mom what had happened. If I were to tell my mom, she would lose her job, and she wouldn't be able to take care of us kids, and we would go into, I think he said, state custody. I don't really quite remember, but I know something along those lines were said to me. And we got home, and my sister was home. And I went in, and I grabbed a blanket, and he came in after me, and I can remember sitting on the couch just curled up in a blanket, and I couldn't talk. And I was so scared. I was practically sitting on my sister's lap, and I just wanted him to leave. I can remember just wanting him to leave, and when he did, I remember my sister looked at me and asked me if he hurt me, and I told her yes. And I told my sister what had happened, and I gave my sister the money that he had given me. I did not want it. And we went walking because my mom was not home. And she got me out of the house, and we went walking. And when my mom got home, I actually just met her in the truck, and I jumped in the truck, and I was crying and telling her that he had hurt me, and that he gave me that money, and I didn't want it, and I made my sister give the money to my mom. Well, my mom and my stepdad left at that moment, and when they got back, they told me that he wouldn't be hurting anybody else. They confronted him, and they gave him the money back, and he wouldn't hurt anybody else. The next morning, when I got up, there was a knock on the door, and I went and answered it, and it was actually his wife at the door with her baby. And I slammed the door in her face, and I ran into my mom's bedroom and told her that she was there. And my mom got up, and she answered the door, and she invited Betty in. And I was holding the baby on the floor, and she told my mom that Ted had admitted to raping me the night before. And I begged my mom to do something about it because I didn't want him to hurt that baby. And I wasn't allowed to do anything. My mom always said I wasn't strong enough to speak to strangers about what had happened. And that choice is what was best. That was all I ever got out of my rape. I didn't get to talk about it. I didn't have anyone to turn to. Shortly after that had happened, I felt so alone and not worthy enough to fight for. I didn't feel like my mom loved me enough, or loved me at all, because of those choices. And I was laying in bed trying to figure out how to commit suicide one day, and something told me that I needed to write, and I can remember that feeling, an instinct of, writing. So I did get me a pen and paper, and I did start writing, and luckily, I turned to writing, and I used it for therapy. I didn't know it was therapy at that age, but I wrote, all the time. I wrote, and I have actually published a poetry book, with a lot of 50 poems in it, and it was so therapeutic, and it saved my life. Writing saved my life. So I'll always be an advocate for writing. If you don't have someone to talk to and you don't have a trusted person, write it out, get it out of your head, get it out of your heart, and um, try to just, a healthy avenue of getting it out. And writing really, really helped me. Through this YouTube channel, I will read poems that I have written, some of the poems that I have published, and also some of the poems that I haven't published that are just sitting around in boxes or in notebooks or wherever I may find them. So I'm excited about that. I can remember my mom stayed friends with Ted, and that really, that really bothered me. And it wasn't that she didn't believe me, she knew it happened. So I struggled for years of not being worthy enough to stand up for, to protect, to help. It was no big deal in my mom's eyes that he raped me, and that's how I felt. So I had a lot of trauma along with that rape that probably was unnecessary if my mom would have turned it in and protected other children. So I knew that he had daughters, and my whole life I have thought of his daughters. My phone? We'll call him in a minute. I knew he had daughters, and my whole life I prayed for him, and I always felt guilty because I knew what had happened to me, and I knew nothing stopped him. I mean, he was still out there, and he was still able to hurt people. And knowing that was so hard on me. I put myself through hell because of those feelings. That guilt is one of the worst feelings I can ever feel in my life, I think. And the reason I want to share most of my story with you guys is so you do understand that I'm just a person. I'm not a counselor. I'm I'm really just a person that has experienced trauma. And my whole life, all I ever wanted to do was help people. From the day he raped me, I thought about those babies that I held in my arms, and it's always been about them. You couldn't change the fact that he raped me, but we could change the future, and we didn't. We didn't even attempt to change it. So I think it's really important that you guys understand that I can relate, and some of my experiences may help you. Maybe you can relate to some of my actions I talk about, or some of the ways that I coped with things. And I'm really hoping that maybe I can just help that one person. So that's why I decided to do this. Years later, I had heard that Ted went to prison. And honestly, I thought it was for raping his daughters. And my whole life, I actually thought that until 2020. Before 2020, I knew that he had went to prison for raping a 7-year-old. I kept track of him on the sex offender registry, and he was homeless in Wichita after he got out of prison. And he stayed compliant in registering, And I just, for some reason, I just kept track of him. Well, now back to 2020, I was watching the news, and they aired a segment about a homeless Navy veteran who had passed away in Wichita, and they aired his funeral that night on TV, and talked about how no one would step, he didn't have family or friends claim him, so the brother of arms stepped in and was there, so he wasn't buried alone, and he was actually buried with honors in the VA cemetery. And watching that really affected me. It really set me back. No, it really set me back. And it was, I couldn't believe it. How could someone like that be buried with honors? He went to prison. I mean, he was a convicted child rapist. Even, I mean, hurting one should be bad enough to where he didn't get buried with honors. So after I got a little better and worked through some of my trauma from watching that news segment, I decided that I was going to try to fight that. And I called Cake TV, and Cake came and did my interview with me. And then after they left a couple weeks later, they told me that their bosses won't let them run my story by itself. I would have to find the person that turned him in and put him to prison to run it, because that was her story and not mine. And I totally understood that, but how was I supposed to find that out? And I didn't know what I was going to do, but I didn't want to quit fighting it. So I decided just to start talking to people. I talked to people in person. I reached out to people in the area that I was raped in, that he lived in. I told my story, and I basically cold called people and said, hey, 30 years ago I was raped and nothing happened, but he hurt another girl. And he went to prison for that girl, and I need to find that girl because I need that girl's help. And I had to do that. And I found her. And I found that girl, and she did an interview with Cake TV. Bless her heart, she told me that she would help me, help my voice be heard, and she had already went through hell through the court system, and she was strong enough and such an amazing woman. And she did an interview with me so my story could be heard too. So we did that together, and it comes down to that the laws are, to me, messed up when it comes to veterans and sex offense. So I am still fighting that, and I'm still working on it. I've been in contact with the senators, the congressmen, trying to figure out what we need to do to change that wordage of that law, or what do I need to do to, how can I get it out there so people will know about it and help me voice about it. So I've been doing that for the last 2 years, and I'm still working on it, and I'm not going to quit until I'm heard. So I'm pretty determined about that. I would eventually like him moved, but I don't think that'll happen, honestly, but I'm still going to fight for it. In my journey of finding the girl that turned him in, I actually found several victims of his that came forward and told me their stories. And then after I wrote my book and I published my book and I started doing book readings, I had other victims come out and tell me he was the person that had hurt them. I have even been in contact with that baby that I held in my arms, who does not call him a father, so I will not call her his daughter. I held this baby in my arms, and he was her sperm donor, and those were her words, so that's what I will use. And this man has hurt so many people, and it was really hard on me to know and to get to know some of the women. Most of these women that I have met weren't even born yet when I had been raped, so if something would have been said, if something would have happened, they may have never been traumatized like that. So I felt a lot of guilt and questions about my mom. And so there is trauma there and tragedy there in my life, and learning how to deal with it and cope with it. It's not easy. It's a lifelong sentence when you are raped. And I'm sure other traumatic events in people's life are lifelong sentences. You just don't get over them. They're there. So I decided to make this YouTube video in hopes so you can hear my story. You know the basics of what has happened to me, and you know that I can relate. Trauma is different. All types of traumas affects everyone, and this is not just a sexual assault support group. This is a support group for trauma. You know, trauma is just trauma, and everyone reacts to trauma differently. So eventually I want to go over, behaviors to reactions to trauma. There's so many out there. One of the ones that I did, I had an eating disorder, and I actually became anorexic because in my brain, the smaller I got, the less I'd be noticed. So I wanted to be as tiny as possible. That was one of the worst, well, not the worst, I would say, but one of the unhealthy choices that I had made. But that trauma is affecting me my whole life. I still have nightmares. I still have bad days to where I feel unworthy, I guess. I felt like that my whole life. My husband and my children have really helped me grow into the person I am today and find the courage and the strength inside of me to speak up and speak out. And the more I do speak up and speak out, the better I get. And knowing that I can do it, knowing that I can tell my story and let someone know that they are not alone through trauma. They can email me, they can friend me on Facebook, whatever they need to do to talk to me, and I can listen. I'm not a counselor, but I can listen. That one person does not have to feel alone through it, and that is my goal. So, excuse me, sorry. That's why I decided to make this YouTube channel. I will not always talk about trauma. I will not always talk about sexual abuse or any of that. Some days I may just get on here and talk to you about what's going on in my life at this moment. Everyone has stressful days that just need to vent. Everyone has great days that they need to express of how great they are and the positive in your life. So this channel is probably going to be not just set on trauma, but I do want to call it a support group because I don't think every support group should make you be thinking about the trauma that you went through. I think it should be helping you learn techniques. I might do crafts someday. Just whatever this gets into is, as long as I'm helping someone, I'm okay with it. So, and the more I do it, the less nervous I'll be. Like I said, I've never done anything like this before, and I've never recorded myself for sure. So forgive me for any mishaps, miswords. messy hair, no makeup, whatever the case may be. I'm just me. So I will look like this. Some days I'll have makeup on. Some days my hair will be done. Some days I won't have my granddaughter. Most days I probably won't have my granddaughter. And let's get to know each other. Let's see what we can do to help each other. And just remember, you are loved. You are worth loving. And that's what I need everyone to know. Thank you. I hope you have a blessed day.